Okay, Coroneos 100 integrals number 54. All right, so we've got a question saying we need to integrate ln square root of x minus 1. All right, so first step is when you first look at the square root, you don't really like the square root to be there. It's a bit annoying if you see a square root inside. Okay, so the very first step is we need to use the log laws to kind of remove the square root, change that into a power of a half. All right, so once you finish that, then the next step is move the half to the front, like a coefficient. You can even move this one outside the integral symbol. So you end up with, we just need to integrate ln x minus 1. Okay, all right, so this comes to the questions like, how do we integrate ln x type of question? We use the partial, not the partial fraction, but we use the integration by parts to do this question here. Okay, so the first step is we're going to let u equals to ln bracket x minus 1. So u dash is equal to reciprocal 1 over x minus 1. V dash is equal to 1 here. So we kind of need to understand there's an invisible 1 there to be as like a v dash. All right, and then that gives us a v is equal to x. Okay, so once you've finished this process of preparation, we can start to integrate using integration by parts. All right, so we've got a half, put a bracket, so it's a bit clear. All right, so what you have to do is multiply these two together, which is u times by v. That should give us x ln x minus 1. All right, subtract. Now we need to multiply these two together. That gives us integrate x over x minus 1 d over dx. Okay, all right, so now we still need to continue to do this question. You can leave the half outside like this, okay? All right, so now the question is how do we integrate the second part? All right, so you've got x minus 1 on the denominator, you've got x on the numerator, so you can use something called algebra manipulation to change that x into x minus 1. All right, so let's just do that. So that gives us x minus 1, put a bracket, and we plus 1 straight away, over x minus 1 dx. Okay, so that should give us x ln x minus 1 minus. All right, so for this one, we can actually separate the fractions into two parts. So we've got this part here, which gives you 1, and plus 1 over x minus 1. So now it's actually quite easy to integrate that term here. All right, so just keep writing it. All right, so now what we need to do is just start to integrate term by term. So that's very easy. So that gives us minus x minus ln absolute value x minus 1 and square bracket plus c. Now if you want to, you can actually take the, times the half back inside. That gives you half x ln x minus 1 minus half x minus half ln. Now, with this absolute value, you can still keep the absolute value if you want to, but I can change that absolute value to a bracket. The reason for that is because if you go back to the original question here, the domain of this function seems that's inside the square root, which tells us that x minus 1 must be greater than or equals to 0, but we can't really have equal to 0 for the log function here, so therefore that's greater than 0. That is just the domain of the function. So with that domain of the function, we know what's inside. It must be a positive number, so we don't really have to put an absolute value. All right, so that would just be a bracket. So that's how you solve this question here. Okay, we use integration by part to solve it, but before we do that, we actually move the half to the front, treat this as like a coefficient. Okay, all right, thanks for watching.